believing this is an update. I am excited and a tad bit frustrated because this child could have been updated a long time ago. I said it again. This child could have been identified a long time ago, but because there were errors made, they compared footprints. And according to the press conference today, they don't use that anymore, which makes me think of the boy in the box. Because they just don't have luck with footprints for some reason. They didn't go into detail, but it's just not something they use anymore. Also, they estimated the doe to be 7 years old. So they discounted the little girl. Well, Little Miss Nobody has her name back. Her name was Sharon Gallegos. If you will recall, we've talked about both of these cases here on the show. I'll link one in the cards at the end and one in the cards up here, in case you are unfamiliar. Orthram Labs, through their DNA Solves website, which I have told you about in regards to Mary Anderson Doe and the Christmas tree lady, raised money after some money was given to them to do the testing in the genetic genealogy to determine who she was. She was actually 4 years old, getting ready to turn 5. Again, they estimated Little Miss to be 7. Now, Sharon was abducted from her yard in Alamogordo, New Mexico, taken to Congress, Arizona. That is 535.5 miles, or an 8-hour, 19-minute drive. Too bad we didn't have an Amber Alert back then. Her body was partly burnt, partly buried. There were a couple of other areas that looked like they were trying to dig a grave and changed to the spot where she was ultimately found. I'm stunned because I announced on my show about her, actually on both of my shows, about each one of them, that she had been ruled out. Oops. But hopefully now they can figure out who killed her. Excuse me. I don't know if there's DNA from the suspect available on her clothing, which, by the way, was different clothing than the clothing she had last been seen in, which was another problem, another reason they ruled her out. Kidnappers do change clothing. Of course, that makes me wonder if the kidnapper was female. To drive 8 hours, almost 8.5 hours with a child, a 4-year-old. You're talking, I gotta go pee, I gotta go pee, are we there yet, are we there yet? Crying because she doesn't know you, screaming, throwing a fit. That would be the worst 8.5 hours of your life. Unless, of course, you got her tied up somewhere. But I implore you, if you were on those highways, if you were in Tucson, Phoenix, any of the areas in between, matter of fact, I will show you the map that I created. Thank you, Google Maps. to show you the, oops, hold on guys, to show you the drive. Let's see if I can get this up here. There it is. Oops. That's the drive. I did that to show it to you and also to show it to me. That is a long distance, and they say it was a 4-day span, they believe, between the day she was abducted and the day she, well, I guess she was murdered around the day she was found, but between the day she was abducted and the day she was killed. So they wanted to know if anybody saw anything. And it's hard, I know, to remember, oh, I was on a highway in 1960, but not entirely impossible. Now, when they mentioned footprints not being good and not being used anymore, it immediately made me think of the boy in the box. Because that's one of the ways that they excluded babies in his case, was his footprints. Which means that it doesn't mean they didn't have a match. Footprints just aren't good to match. I wish I knew more about that, but I'm not a forensic scientist. If you do, please comment. We need to get his DNA into GEDmatch, which I think it is, because I know there's a lady working on it, an amazing genetic genealogist. Her problem, she told me, I believe, was getting closer relatives. I just got a message. Anyway, I certainly hope that this has inspired you to, first of all, never give up. Second, put your DNA in GEDmatch and in Family Tree DNA. Because unfortunately, the big guys, Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, do not allow for forensic genealogy. I'm sorry, but those of us who have our DNA in those databases should demand that they open their database. They actually told Bill Fleischer, in our boy's case, that it would be a violation of his privacy, of the boy's privacy. He's been dead since 1957. He doesn't have privacy. So, I think we need to do that. We also need to encourage all law enforcement to put all missing people and all unidentifieds into NamUs. That is my text notification. Because right now only 4 states make it mandatory. And Yavapai County, another thing they said in that press conference, was they were the first county to get all of their cases into NamUs in the entire country, which is amazing. Yay, Yavapai. One of the states that it's required in is actually my neighbor to the south, Connecticut. And the reason for that is the law that's trying to go federal is actually a law out of Connecticut called Billy's Law. It's also the National Missing Persons Reporting Law. I'm probably saying that wrong, but for Billy Smolinski, I've had his mom on my show twice, as you know. And we really want that law to be passed federally. It needs to be. You'd think it'd be common sense. Because if all of the unidentified and all of the missing are put in, and if you actually take a damn police report on an adult missing person, you know, I've seen so many lately that when they were identified, it was found that, oh, they weren't adults. They were allowed to go missing, and nobody took a report, yet their bodies were found. Well, if you don't take a report, you cannot identify. You cannot identify a body. It's that simple. And we need to get our DNA into these databases because there's so much less DNA, less profiles, excuse the dog, in these databases, the FTDNA and the GEDmatch, than there are in the big guys like the 23andMe, the Ancestry, the MyHeritage. They have way, way, way more. Another reason they should open up their databases to law enforcement. That's my opinion. We're not talking about tracking you down and whatever. Only if you got a missing loved one, or if there's someone in your family that went missing, maybe you didn't even know it. You know, if they contacted me and said, it looks like you're a third cousin match to this missing person, I would go on my Ancestry and figure out, or even let them on my Ancestry and figure out through the shared matches which side of the family it was on to start with, and move from there. And they can put it on Ancestry and remain and make the profile anonymous by just putting a number for the name, for the username, so the name that comes up with the DNA. Just put a number. People do it. People put all sorts of things there. It can be a little annoying when you're working, but if you know these specific numbers, say they do it AN dash, you know, as an Ancestry dash, or my for MyHeritage dash, or 23 dash for 23andMe. When they upload them, then there would still be the anonymity and the so-called privacy, but at the same time access to many more profiles and much greater chance of identifying the person and giving them back to their family. And I just wanted to quickly tell you my own experience with all of this. As you know, both of my parents have passed away now, and once I got through all the stuff you go through when someone passes away and you're responsible for them, I began a search of my own. I began a search for my sister. I have a half-sister through my father, through a very short-lived first marriage. And he never knew her. He knew of her, but he never knew her. And asked me to wait until after he was passed because he was afraid he would be rejected. Anyway, thanks to search angels, and the young lady, well, not really a young lady, but the woman's aunt and a search angel on Facebook, I found her. I was able to speak with her. Still waiting for her to call me back. We'll see what happens. I did receive the marriage record. So I'm pretty excited that I got to hear her voice. I got pictures of her from her aunt. I'm beyond thrilled. I will not post the pictures until I talk to her again. But needless to say, we both look like that. So I do have experience with these things that I talk about. I said in a previous video that my mother found her father and his family through DNA, through ancestry. Amazing. All of a sudden she had siblings, more siblings, and she had a father she never knew about because she had been told someone else was her dad. But DNA said otherwise. So I do have experience with this stuff. We found my mother's sister that her mother was forced to give up as a teenager. A few years before my grandmother died. They did have a good reunion. She's still in touch with the family, which is wonderful. That's what I wanted with my sister, but we'll see what happens. But her aunt's daughter did say, even if she didn't want me for whatever reason, they would be a part of my life, which I thought was really neat and really special, and I want to publicly thank them both. Namelessly at this point. I just think that's wonderful, and that's why you should do all these things. Now, I was hoping she'd pop up in my DNA matches, but evidently she hasn't done DNA. She did, however, search. Unfortunately, my father's name was Robert Wilson. Do you know how common that is? If you know anything about Irish naming patterns, you do. It is not fun searching Irish names. Trust me, I've done 20 plus years worth of genealogy. So I just wanted to tell you that, and I wanted to tell you that there are all sorts of stories out there. And I think everyone should be willing. Ancestry is on sale right now for $49, which is amazing. And don't be afraid, if you do yours, to ask one of your parents to do theirs. In my case, my mom did hers, but my father was deceased, so I had his brother do his, so that we could better break down their grandmother's side, because that's what we're working on. We're trying to figure out exactly who their grandmother was. I think I'm close. I just have to go through the DNA and see if there's any matches that link back to that tree. Anyway, that's what you do. That's what the forensic genealogists do. That's something I would love to volunteer to do, to try to give someone their name back. That would be really neat. And I'd cry. I want to thank you for listening to me jabber. I'm again so excited that I can't do it. This little girl got her name back. Because nobody should be called Little Miss Nobody. Now we need to give Little Miss X her name back. That's just as bad. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Remember, click that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications. Click like if you like my video. And hashtag 500 by June. Have a great day and God bless you.